Chapter 9. Lucas. I got into hiking and I'm on the trail in my muddy Asalo boots because of Lucas and the list. Tony, Earth to Tony. I shake myself out of my memories. It has been a few minutes since Denver asked me why I was on the trail. The silence must have felt strange. It was a straightforward question after all. I got into hiking because I'm trying to grow up. It's the best half-truth I can give. Grow up? Ahead of me, Sean shakes his head. What does that even mean? I've always needed people. I've always been a follower. Out here on the trail, I want to learn how to grow up, depend on myself, learn how to be alone. The last answer slips past me before I can catch it. The bird flutters out of the bush. A quail, I think. Its light brown body lifts off and it disappears into the trees. Sean does not respond, and we spend the next hour in silence, lost in our own thoughts. We pass through muddy trails slick with new rain, up a steep mile to the top of South Kinsman, down a rocky scramble, up again to the peak of North Kinsman, and make it to Kinsman Pond shelter an hour after our stomachs have started to growl. No one else is there, and we take over the shelter, flopping our backpacks into the corner. I think about hiking the couple of extra miles to Lonesome Lake so I can get more food, but I quickly decide against it. After my hypothermia scare earlier today, I don't trust myself not to mess up. Plus, it's getting dark and I don't want to leave the protection of my rescuers. Sean and Denver break out their cooking equipment and make their dinner. A soupy mess of jasmine rice and plump red kidney beans floating among thick slices of summer sausage, all simmering in a heap of Cajun seasonings. As the stew cooks, the smell is unbearably good, but when Denver offers to share with me, I say no. Instead, I eat my second-to-last Snickers, forcing myself to chew slowly. I count to 20 for every bite, making each mouthful last as long as possible. I want to prove to Sean that I am taking responsibility for feeding the dog, that I'm not going to depend on luck and the generosity of others to make it on the trail. It's not enough. The hunger in my belly takes over, and I snatch my final Snickers and rip open the wrapper. It is halfway gone before I can force myself to stop. I clamp my mouth shut and tuck the last half in the top pocket of my backpack. I'm not out of food. I'm not desperate yet. There is no flat place to pitch a tent, and the ground is soggy from the day's rain, so after dinner we all decide to stay in the shelter. We roll out our sleeping pads on the dry wooden floor and fluff up our sleeping bags on top of them. Night comes and each of us shuffles into our patch of warmth for the night. It is when we are all inside of our bags, breathing the cool summer night air, and I'm wondering if either Sean or Denver snore, that Sean puts his hands behind his head and studies the roof beams above our heads. Hey, Tony, he says, I've been thinking about what you said. You want to learn how to be alone? He scratches his neck. Just give up on everybody. I'm confused. What do you mean? Sean unclasps one of his hands and runs his thumb across his cheek. The moonlight glows against the dark line of his scar. When you can say screw you to everyone, when you can feel them not caring and not care about them, then you've made it. You're alone. You trust no one but yourself. You look out for no one but yourself, and you survive. But what about your family? I think about Gran, the way she hugged me so hard after what happened with Lucas. I thought my bones would crack. Don't you trust them? Don't they look out for you? No, Sean says. It's only one word, but there is so much venom behind it. I know it's true. What about your brothers or sisters? Only child. Me too, I say. So what? That doesn't make us friends. Sean shifts so his dark eyes reflect back at mine. And anyway, having siblings doesn't mean you're less alone. Take Denver. His brother Harry is a real piece of work. Sean, let's not talk about it. For the first time, I hear anger in Denver's voice. And something else. Sadness. Fear. Fine, I'm going to sleep, Sean says. He turns his back to me. But, shut up, Tony, he growls. It is quiet. I stare at the moonlit cobwebs as Sean's breathing grows deep and even. I guess I can see what he means about not trusting anyone. But I don't want that kind of alone. I want to be able to trust myself and rely on myself, but I want to be able to trust others too. Being alone is not the same as being lonely. Just as I'm about to drift off, Denver's sleeping bag rustles. Hey, Tony, you still awake? Yeah. I know Sean can come off a little harsh, but he's a good guy. I think about how different Sean and Denver are. I wonder why they're together. Sean's coldness and Denver's friendliness are like night and day. How'd you become friends, I ask. Denver is silent, and I don't think he's going to answer. Then, when I'm just about to close my eyes, he clears his throat. When I was 12, my dad caught this scrawny, scraggly kid stealing the garden gnomes off our front porch. But instead of calling the cops, my dad took him to the house and told my mom to make extra dinner. That night, I came home to see Sean in the kitchen scarfing down a huge plate of food. The first thought I have of him was, man, that kid is skinny. You could see his ribs through his shirt. Later, Sean told me that until that night, he hadn't had a real meal in a week. Anyway, after dinner, my dad told Sean he could stop by any time for a meal. He soon became a regular at our house. I wasn't sure what to think about Sean at first. He was really quiet, wouldn't touch anything. I think he was scared that he would somehow mess up, that he would prove that a kid from the bad side of the town could only be bad. When he started inviting Sean over, my dad sat me and my brother Harry down. He told us that even though Sean had stolen from us, we had to trust him. Trust builds trust, he said. I listened to my father for the most part, but I still wasn't sure about wanting Sean as a friend. Then, one day, I saw him riding down the street on the way to my house. He was on this old beat-up skateboard. The paint had been worn to nothing and the wheels were rubbed down almost to their axles. But Sean was double flipping and high jumping on that board as if it were a stroll in the park. I asked him to teach me. We wound up meeting at the local skate park almost every day after school. As we spent more time together, I never worried about trusting him again. But Harry was a different story. He never liked Sean. When my parents were away and Sean was over, Harry would always tease him about his Walmart jeans and his ragged homemade haircuts. He constantly accused Sean of wanting to steal our Xbox or PlayStation or whatever new toy we got for Christmas or our birthdays, and he wouldn't let up about Sean's shirts. Sean was always wearing long-sleeve shirts even in summer. They were the really cheap kind, the one you get in 3-packs at the dollar store. Harry would ask Sean why he didn't have t-shirts like a normal person, but Sean wouldn't answer. I couldn't figure it out until this one really hot day in August. It was about a year after I met Sean. Harry and I were horsing around in the pool in the backyard. Sean was with us but refused to go swimming, said he was afraid of the water. Harry and I got into a wrestling match. Harry has always been stronger than me and liked to prove it, especially if there was an audience. He would hold me under and then lift my head up only enough to get a half breath in before jerking me back down into the water. Each time he dunked me, he held me under for longer. Then he finally got to the point where he wouldn't let me up. Later, Sean told me he had seen my eyes bulge and my mouth open and take in water, and he had screamed to Harry to let go. Instead of pulling me up, Harry had taunted him. He told him that if he was a wuss for not trying to save me, I couldn't hear. I was too busy drowning. Sean jumped in. He still had his sneakers on. He really didn't know how to swim, but he could kick and bite, and that's what he did. Harry has a scar from where Sean left teeth marks on his arm. Harry let go of me. I got to the surface and pulled myself from the water, choking out half the pool. Harry and Sean were thrashing around in the shallow end. Harry was screaming at Sean that he was fighting dirty, and Sean was screaming back that Harry was a bully and a coward. Harry dragged himself out of the pool. He called us horrible names and went inside to take care of his bleeding arm. After a while, Sean and I went inside too. I took Sean to my room and gave him some dry clothes. I went into the bathroom to change, and it occurred to me that Sean didn't have a towel to dry off. I got one from the bathroom shelf and opened my bedroom door. Sean was in the middle of dressing. His shirt was off and he was facing away from me. His back and arms were covered in bruises and welts, and not the kind you get from falling off a skateboard. Sean had heard the door open. He knew I was behind him. "Don't tell," he had said. "I won't," I said, "but you have to." I handed him the towel and Sean covered himself. He began to shake. We sat on the floor and he told me about his father, about the alcohol, the drugs, and the violence. This happened in his home. About the threats of what would happen if he told anyone. I didn't know what to do, but I knew someone who would. That night after supper, I got my dad and Sean in the living room. I got Sean to talk. My dad called Child Protective Services that night, and a week later, Sean was living with us. And a few months later, I was teaching him how to swim. A loon calls out in the night. It is a lonely, mournful sound. After a while, Denver begins to snore. I tuck my head down and close my eyes. I still don't like Sean much, but I don't mind his meanness anymore.